Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Development Committee meeting for this evening. If I could remind everybody to please put your cellular phones on an inaudible mode so that the meeting is not disrupted this evening, and the same for members of council. All members of committee are here today with the exception of Councillor Miles, who may join us later. Councillor Dillon, you're on the board?
Consent.
Oh, when we get to consent, we'll do it that. Okay. There are a couple of additions to the agenda this evening. They are in front of you, members of committee. On item 4.1 and 4.2, the statutory public meeting reports, there is correspondence from Sign Lisk, Castles, Brock, and Blackwell related to both of those statutory meetings. And the minutes for the Brampton Heritage Board of November the 21st have been handed out. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Councillor Dillon, you're on for consent only.
Yes.
Okay. Someone like to move approval? Councillor Bowman? All those in favor? That's carried. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. Consent agenda. Councillor Dillon.
I'd like to, Madam Chair, remove 7.4 and 7.5.
Okay. Are there any other changes to the consent agenda? Seeing none, would someone like to move consent? Councillor Dillon, as amended. All those in favor? That's carried. For members of the public who are here this evening, we've now reached the part of the agenda where it is the statutory public meeting reports. This is a public meeting of the Planning and Development Committee held in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act of Ontario. The proposals heard at this public meeting are as a result of applications made to the City of Brampton under the Planning Act. These are not proposals of the City of Brampton unless they are specifically identified as city-initiated proposals. The intent of this public meeting is to hear submissions from the public. Members of the committee may ask for questions of clarification, but will not engage in discussion. I know that many people come out to this public meeting portion of the planning committee and expect or would like to hear your member of council or your representative make comments, but it is inappropriate for members of committee to make any statements on any application that is in this portion of the agenda. So unless there is a question of clarification only. So I will run through the 4 public meeting reports, and I will ask if anybody is in attendance for them. And if you are, if you could just signal to me, and we will have staff do a presentation as well as the applicant. So is there anybody here for item 4.1, which is an application to amend the official plan by Gagnon Walker Domes, Heathwood Homes in Ward 6? Is anybody here for that application this evening? Seeing none, we will adjourn that item for this evening. Item 4.2 is an application to amend the official plan, Gagnon Walker Domes, MCN Heritage Incorporated in Ward 6. Is anybody here for that application this evening? One more chance. Seeing none, I will adjourn that one for this evening as well. Item 4.3 is an application to amend the official plan, zoning bylaw, and proposed draft plan of subdivision, Gagnon Walker Domes, 9401 Credit View Road, Brampton Incorporated, east side of Credit View Road, south of Williams Parkway in Ward 5. Is anybody here for that application this evening? All right, bingo. The fourth item is 4.4. It is an application to amend the zoning bylaw and proposed draft plan of subdivision, KLM Planning Partners Incorporated, Digram Developments, 11223 Torbram Road, east of Torbram Road, north of Countryside in Ward 10. Is anybody here for that application this evening? Is anybody here for the application on Torbram Road? Seeing none, we'll adjourn that one as well, and we'll move right to item 4.3 this evening. And I would like to invite Mark Denardis from Gagnon Walker Domes. And after Mark Denardis makes the presentation, we'll have a staff presentation by Nasir Mahmood. Welcome, Mark.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee, city staff, members of the public. My name is Mark Denardis. I'm a planning associate from Gagnon Walker Domes Urban Planners. My office acts as planning consultant to 9401 Creditview Road, Brampton, Inc., the registered owner of the subject property. The property is located on the east side of Creditview Road within the Springbrook residential community, midway between Queen Street West and Williams Parkway. The property is irregular in shape, having a total area of approximately 0.78 hectares, 1.92 acres, with 63 meters of frontage, 206 feet along Creditview Road, and a lot depth of 132 meters, 435 feet. It is currently vacant and relatively flat, containing old field vegetation, mature trees, and hedgerows. The property is bounded by single detached dwellings on large lots to the north, single detached dwellings to the south, valley land and a stormwater management pond to the east, Creditview Road, vacant lands, and a single attached dwellings beyond to the west. Earlier this year, our office filed applications to amend the Credit Valley Secondary Plan and City Zoning Bylaw, in addition to a draft plan of subdivision to permit the development of semi-detached residential dwellings on the property. The applications were deemed complete on October 31st, 2017. The draft plan of subdivision proposes 6 semi-detached lots bearing 12 units, 4 future residential reserve blocks bearing 8 semi-detached units, 1 single detached unit, a natural heritage system buffer block, a road widening block for Creditview Road, and a local road extension of Maymek Drive. A temporary road access to Creditview Road until such time as the land to the north is proposed. And overall, the net residential density is 33.24 units per net residential hectare, or 13.45 units per net residential hectare or acre. The proposal will result in the extension of the development pattern to the south. It is intended that the dwellings will take cues from the surrounding neighborhood with traditional architectural design. Dwellings will be subject to the city's architectural design review process to ensure that it is appropriate and compatible with the building materials, colors, and details of the existing homes in the area. The applications have been reviewed for conformity with the governing planning documents, including the provincial policy statement, the growth plan, the Region Appeal official plan, and the City of Brampton official plan. We are of the opinion that the proposal is desirable and is representative of good planning. Mr. Nasir Mahmood will now highlight the governing planning policy that applies to the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'm going to ask if staff could put up the slide just for clarification for everybody who's in attendance this evening. If you can look above you, when there's an application to the city to amend the zoning bylaw, you can see where we are in the process. So the application comes into the city and we are at the very first opportunity for the public to offer their comments. So it's very early in the application stages, and if you will be welcome to come up and make some comments this evening, but if you want to make a written submission, or if you have any comments that you want recorded for the public record, you can contact staff following tonight's meeting and continue to offer your comments. Okay? Nasir?
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members, and members of the public. I'll be talking about the technical aspects of this proposal. This property is designated residential in the official plan. The residential designation permits predominantly residential land uses, including full range of dwelling types, ranging from single detached houses to high-rise apartments. An amendment, therefore, to the official plan is not required in this case. The properties designated as residential low density 1 in the credit value secondary plan. This designation permits primarily large single detached housing, but also a limited number of high-end semi-detached dwellings, as well as townhouses may also be considered subject to appropriate location, superior site design, architecture, and streetscape to make sure as long as it is within a maximum density of 19.5 units per net residential hectare. The current proposal includes only semi-detached dwellings, and the proposed density exceeds the permitted density under this designation. Therefore, an amendment to the secondary plan has been made to the city. The property is zoned agriculture by the zoning bylaw. The agriculture zone does not permit the proposed residential development. As a result, an amendment to the zoning bylaw has also been made to the city. The applicant has submitted a number of technical studies in support of their application. That includes the planning justification report, tree evaluation report, functional servicing report, stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment, geotechnical investigation, fluvial geomorphology report, phase 1, environmental site assessment, environmental noise assessment, addendum to the approved community design guidelines, tertiary plan, and sustainability score and summary. In terms of the next steps, I shall continue to process the application and complete a planning review when all expert comments have been received. I shall be preparing a recommendation report which will include a detailed evaluation of the proposal that will be brought back to the Planning and Development Committee. The recommendation report will include a discussion on any comments or questions that are received from the public. Residents that provide their contact information will be informed when a recommendation report will be brought back to the Committee and Council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite anybody who wishes to make comments on this application to come forward and make some comments. I know that Councillor Gibson and I have heard from a resident in the area who is preparing correspondence that will be submitted to staff. Did you want to come forward? Yes, you do. It's not as intimidating as you think. I'll ask you to sign in with the young lady at the entrance of the council chambers. So if I can ask you to come forward, the podium, no, you don't have to come around this way. No, sorry, straight ahead. If you could state your name for the public record, and you'll have 5 minutes. There is a clock in front of you, so you can watch the countdown.
Thank you. My name is Anjana Bandara. I just have a quick question about the notice requirement. When we inquired from the city about the notice requirement, which residents are informed and advised, we were told that residents from a 240-meter radius would, sorry, I'm just recovering from a sore throat, would be advised. My research brought me to a page in city of Brampton that tells us that the requirement is actually a 900-meter radius for the area 45. I'm just
Okay, I'm going to
asking
ask
some
staff to
clarification.
respond to that.
Yeah, so through you, Madam Chair, the notice requirement that we do have, as council approved, is 240 meters from subject sites. The reference to 900 meters, and perhaps there might also be a reference to 800 meters there,
Yes.
is a previous standard that the city had provided and utilized previously, quite some time ago now. It is, I'm going to guess now, in the neighborhood of 6 years or so ago that we had made that change, and council had approved the change in that way, given the changing landscape of the city, development proliferating throughout the city in different lot fabric, and an appropriateness of 240 meters being considered.
Sorry, is that stated somewhere? Is this an outdated page from the city of Brampton, that means? Because this is where we access information. And is there any place we can go and check that out, 240-meter radius?
So, yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So the 240-meter radius is applied to all properties at this point in time that are subject through the planning process. If there is a reference to an older standard on the city's webpage, we will immediately find that and make that change accordingly.
So how does the city of Brampton, just as a follow-up and for information, the city has the 240 meters. What does the Planning Act require the municipality to do?
Yes, Madam Chair. So the Planning Act from the province of Ontario identifies a much lesser standard, be a statutory requirement. And so that requirement is 120 meters from property. So the city of Brampton does double the circulation distance to all applications that we are proceeding with. And further to that, the Planning Act also identifies that it's either a mailing at 120 meters or a reference within a newspaper. So the City of Brampton does complete both of those, the 240 meter distance radius for a mailing, and we also do advertise the applications in the paper.
Is there any place that I can find that requirement anywhere at all in any regulation?
So through you, Madam Chair, by all means, I can follow up with the residents after the meeting to answer further questions on the matter and provide references as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Hi, if you could state your name for the record, please.
My name is Cameron Rana. Madam Chair, a quick question. I think Mr. Mahmood just mentioned that the density, or he made a comment about the neighborhood density for Credit View. I think it was 19.1 was the reference, and indicated that if this plan goes forward, that density would not be met anymore. Could you please elaborate on that? I'm trying to understand, what is that ratio or threshold? What does it stand for? And if this plan went forward, where would the new ratio or metric be?
So perhaps I can speak to that, Madam Chair. So the density that was identified by Mr. Mahmood as far as the proposal, and then the density as far as what the current secondary plan references. The current secondary plan references a maximum density, so that the maximum number of units that you could identify on a property. And so in this case, this development application proposes an increase over and beyond that maximum. And the numbers, again, as you heard them, it's approximately 19 units per hectare that is permitted as a maximum. So within 1 hectare of land, you could fit generally 19 houses on that property as a permission. So in this case, the proposal, I believe it is approximately at 33 units per hectare, so an increase in that respect.
Okay, so a significant increase then over the current 19.1. Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak on this matter? And if you don't wish to speak this evening, but you have questions or comments that following this evening, please just reach out to staff or submit them to the city. Thank you.
My name is Kuljit Singh, and I have a point to make regarding the safety hazard. So site access proposal would lead to a potential safety hazards. Current site access leading from Credit View shall pose numerous safety issues as well as an adverse effect on Credit View Road as a natural heritage corridor. The current road is not equipped to handle construction vehicle traffic and resulting parking of vehicles that shall undoubtedly result in, if allowed, construction. The layout of the proposed development does not seem to support additional parking of construction vehicles and other amenities needed to support a construction crew without spillage on the Credit View. Mayback as well as the heritage land, the damage caused to plant life and wildlife under such circumstances shall be irreparable.
Thank you. And if I could ask you to please sign in so that we have a record of
Sure.
your name just with the young lady behind you, that would be appreciated. Hi, welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for coming, everyone. I think that Madam Chair Elaine Moore and Mr. Grant Gibson, I had an opportunity to speak to both of you. Just thank you for being here tonight. First of all, I wanted to address my concern was that I had contacted Mr. Mahmood several times, and I had no return calls, no return emails until I contacted the city councillor. Now, I understand that you have to follow these. God, there's a process, but a lack of communication disrupts the process because I cannot defend myself and the committee and the community if I don't have any communication. So that was a really big concern right there. And I did get a response, and eventually, after I had to contact several other people, eventually getting a response from Mr. Mahmood. So that was one concern. Second of all, when I went canvassing around the community, I understand you went to 240 meters radius. We checked the 240 meter radius. But to our surprise, nobody knew about this notice.
That's true.
Nobody. We canvassed at least. It was very disappointing. So, I mean, we want to defend ourselves, but it's very difficult to defend yourselves when you have no grounds to defend. You have no support because there's no communication. So it's very difficult. We were hoping that maybe there could be an extension or some time to build a case. We do have a case that we're going to submit today, but it's maybe even stronger, that we can do some more research. Another point is that if this amendment has been put into place, this application, we wanted to hear, we were hoping to hear through the communication channel about what were the grounds, what were the reasons why they decided to make this amendment. What's their case? What is this builder developer's case? We didn't get to hear that at all. So we're going to submit ours and they're going to hear our case, but we didn't get to hear their side. And we were hoping to retrieve that through that communication channel. So it's not a question, it's more of a concern and issue that we were raising tonight, and we're hoping that you're going to get addressed.
Well, and staff will take that under advisement and certainly do some investigations in terms of whether there was a miscalculation in terms of the distribution to the neighborhood. I do think, in terms of your expectations, that the applicant, that staff can contemplate what the applicant's reason for making the application. Anybody who owns property in the city of Brampton, regardless of what the zoning is on it, has the right to put an application before council. And staff's job is to evaluate that in the context of our official plan and our secondary plans, and to make a recommendation to this committee. And part of that report back to council has to take into consideration the comments from the community. That's the purpose of tonight's meeting, is to hear what your concerns are, whether it's traffic or safety or density. And it's up to the applicant to put forward all of the reports that support their application as well. But our staff will evaluate all of the comments in the context of the documents that they have to operate within.
And I completely agree. I think they do have the right to always put an an application in. However, we wanted to hear what were their grounds, just like we are going to submit our grounds, right? So we were hoping to have access to at least hear what were their reasons why they decided to make an amendment.
And the planning consultant was here this evening. He was the first gentleman that spoke tonight.
I didn't hear justification on grounds. I just heard what were the amendment changes. I just didn't hear any grounds. Will we have access to that? Will we get that opportunity?
Have a conversation with them.
Okay.
Well, what I might add, if I may, Madam Chair, is that all the information that staff does receive in conjunction with the application being made to us is all public information. So at any point in time, any of the residents can ask to see any of that information. So I believe the resident does have our contact information, but I'll provide mine as well for some further follow-up with respect to the circulation notice.
And right, as I said, we were hoping that was going to get through, but we didn't because of the barrier of communication that was happening over the 2 weeks, because we were only received the notice. I received the notice only on the 16th of November, and that was when I decided to contact other members of the community, but no one had received anything.
Well, this is the beginning of the conversation.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Don't go away yet. Can I ask you?
Cindy?
Oh, that's right.
It's a question of clarification. When you spoke to me on the phone, I believe you spoke to Councillor Moore too, you had said you wanted to request the applicant to have a meeting with a resident.
The opportunity.
Is that in your submission?
I have to speak to, I think we did. I wrote it in the
We haven't seen your submission at all yet.
No,
so.
we haven't. We haven't submitted until tonight. We're going to do it tonight.
Okay. Because I think I had told
we
you
are
to try to
open
get
to that.
something in so we could
When we had our conversation, I said yes. I think I wanted to speak to everyone in my community to see if they were open to it. We are open to the idea.
Okay. So that would be a request you might want to make tonight then. I thought you would have already done it, but that's good.
Well, in this submission tonight, and anything that goes forward.
I just wanted to make sure all the other council members knew that because we haven't seen anything yet. So.
Actually, another point to make is with the amendment, so the new change that with Mrs. Bandera, she found the document that it stated that there was an 900 secondary plans were 800 meter radius. So I understand there's a new one, but is it dated? So does it have a date on that document as to when it was released?
Through you, Madam Chair. Again, I can follow up with the resident to provide additional details as to council's approval and the date of the council approval.
Yeah, if there is, if the website is not very clear so that residents don't have an opportunity to sort of see what are the current rules around planning, we should take that under advisement and get that fixed because it hasn't been that radius for some time now. So it should be readily available when somebody goes on a planning application.
I'm assuming they update it annually. I'm assuming as the employee of the city would be updated annually.
There should be a ready use guide.
I might offer, Madam Chair, that we will double check, the information provided on the main pages of our web for the department. It is sometimes through search functions, some older information arises, but we'll follow up with IT in that respect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thanks.
Hi.
Good evening. My name is Umesh Srivastava. I'm a resident in the neighborhood which is going to be affected with this development, respected Chair. My concern is that, when we bought this place a few years back, it is termed as the estate of Credit Ridge, and they were supposed to be estate homes, like bigger homes and singles. And now that, this comes as a big surprise that, these semis are being built, which will be a traffic nightmare there. And plus also, there's a lot of vacant land on the northeast side of it. And this could be the start of a semis construction because, the builder will take the next plot, and I've seen that happening a lot of times, and they will say, yeah, this was allowed on this plot. So now we are taking the adjoining one and we'll make townhomes and we'll make semis. And I think the whole landscape of the area is going to kind of get affected. The builder said, oh, we made a plan which is viable, which is kind of, what did he say, the terms that he used is kind of a reasonable plan. That is in their mind, but it's not reasonable in our mind because the traffic, it's a single lane road. As it is at the moment, It is very, this thing, I know it's a heritage road, but it is a busy one, and this high-density one is only going to worsen the situation. Also, there's not much space that the road can be widened there. And that would be kind of my concern as a resident there. And I think we need to really, also, I spoke to Mahmood, his recommendations. I think we'd like to have a copy of what he submits us to the council if we are privy to that, because we'd like to know what exactly the city officials are proposing to the council, so that we can have a better understanding as to which direction the city is going, and if we have any comments on that or anything which can be brought up to discussion, we'd like to do that, because we don't want it to be a process which is so office driven that the council will get the report, the recommendation, and suddenly we see the big board for sale, these semis which are 2 million plus, So we don't want that happening. We want a process which is transparent for all of us, and I feel that we should have a voice on that. And that is
I'm going to ask Alan Parsons to respond to the process that unfolds, that leads to the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, with respect to the process that we use on all of our development applications, and in particular on this one, we will utilize the same. In advance of staff coming forward back to the committee with our recommendations as to whether we are recommending a refusal or an approval of this application, we will be providing notices to the residents that we have received communications from to advise of what the likely date of that recommendation report through to committee will be. Really at that point in time, the residents can choose to contact the clerk's department and ask for a delegation if they so wish, and they will receive a copy of the recommendation report as well by way of request to staff or through to the clerk staff as well.
And it's available on the city website when it's available for the committee itself.
For me, I've spoken to a lot of residents here, and they're with me here. We don't have a problem with the development as long as it's kind of single homes which blend into the neighborhood there for the estate, and that is the estate of Credit Ridges. We can't be having, the next thing is townhomes and the next thing is semis, and it really disturbs the harmony of the place and the landscape of the whole area there,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dillon, you're on the board.
Yeah.
It's only a question of clarification.
Yes, so just for the information of the residents here, can you, Alan, just provide them a timeline of what to expect next? How long will it take after this until the next step?
Through you, Madam Chair. So the timeline, I can't confirm at this point in time. The staff does have to receive all planning background studies as it relates to the application, review those. We would have received studies already at this point in time, but there might be revisions, reiterations of those that we'll have to review. Thereafter, we'll be coming forward with a recommendation report for recommendation through to committee. I will guess at this point in time that that could be in the neighborhood of 4 months or so.
So all the studies are in though?
So at a minimum. That's right, yes. So we would have been reviewing the application to deem it complete. I believe it's complete at this point in time.
Right, so approximately about 4 months.
At a minimum.
At a minimum, okay.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm sorry, but you'll have to get in line, okay? Hi.
Thank you very much, Councillors. So there was a statement made earlier by the representative of the developer that this is flat land. Not sure if you've seen a picture of where this development is taking place. There's tons of trees there. There's plant life, and there's probably animal life too. So we're talking about cutting a lot of trees. Okay, that's number one. Everyone's here for one reason. When we bought our houses here, well over 6 years back, we were told there were 7 developers there, some fully detached houses. Okay, so this is now a complete change from what we have been informed about. So that's why we're here collectively on the same grounds of you want to build, that's fine, but fully detached homes, that's what we're asking for.
Can I ask you to state your name for the public record, please?
Julius Pace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't see anybody else hiding there. Hello and welcome.
Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity. My name is Mohinder Balsingh, and I have a few points to make it. This morning I have talked to the sales representative from the Royal Pine from whom we have bought the house. And she told me, yes, you're right, we have told and the other builders over there that this community is going to be completely exclusive of the detached houses. And we as a citizen normally take the things granted, whatever someone is going to say, especially when they're in authority of making any decision or they're in a particular position that they're saying there will be no semis or townhouses going to come in, so we're taking it for granted. And I think we cannot even ask for everything in writing as well because that will stop the process. That's number one. Number two, I live only not even 100 meters away. I only live about 60 meters away from where the proposed development is. I have not received any letter, any kind of a notice. And there are many residents I've talked to, they have told me exactly the same thing. I do not know why. I keep on checking after I heard it that they are getting the notices. I never received any notice. Number three, I have the videos of the animal life that was there even about, let us say, about more than a year ago. I have not seen the coyotes. I have not seen the deers anywhere at all. I don't know how to bring it back. And the other thing is there are mature trees over there, very nice tree line over there. And the other resident said that, yes, it will not be in harmony with the existing residential that they are over there. It will change the landscape. And even heard today, there's no traffic study has been done so far on this development. It will adversely affect.
One will be required. Whether it has been submitted yet or not, I don't know.
And the other thing I just want to ask, why squeezing is done when there could be only 12 more houses, the single house could be made. Why we're trying to squeeze in as many as possible? Let's be in harmony with the existing area. Let's be like whatever the already landscape is there. Because squeezing anything, what we are going to achieve out of those, it's a very small area as well. It's not that we can put in over, let us say, 300 houses over there. It's only a very small area. Just squeeze is not going to do anything. I don't know what is the motive, like the previous people said over here. What is really the motive of the builder over there? Like the other people said, we are not against the development. Please do so because that's going to bring some money to the city. So, and also we will enjoy their neighborhood as well. But don't try to squeeze as many as we can do it. So we are in favor of the development. Please do so, but please keep the original plan if it can be done. Just for making some more dollars, just putting some more money in your pocket doesn't mean you can change the existing plans. So that's what I have to say.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. If you could state your name.
Hello, Madam Chair. My name is Daksh Kula. I'm a resident on Lost Canyon Way. I just have two main points to make. One is that this high density or higher density development is a child safety and an elderly safety issue in that area, especially knowing that there is a park on the Laurenville Drive, and the only exit from this property is through Laurenville Drive or towards the south from Credit View Road. So because all the traffic towards, Williams Parkway will go through Laurenville Drive, it goes from in front of the park. I have two small kids, and so does many of my neighbors. It's a safety issue day in, day out for us, especially in summer when kids are out playing. This will add double the traffic if it was compared to if it was a lower density dwellings, right? So that's number one. The second is the school that our kids go to, it's already bursting at seams. We already have portables. Possibly this area will have younger families. The school is already over capacity. I'm not sure where. Both my kids right now are in portables. They go outside, they're not in the main building. And that's a concern because the building was made for only a certain area, and now we're expanding the area. And that means more pressure on the school system. So these are the only 2 points I want to make, along with the other bigger points that my colleagues have put forward. Thank you.
Hello. Welcome.
Hello all. My name is David Hasik. I do live also on Lost Canyon Way. I moved to Canada from New York City about 4 years ago. I choose the neighborhood that I'm in. It's a peaceful neighborhood. It was a new development, single houses, no attached, no crowd, obviously. I have 5 kids. When at the time I was purchasing my house, the property, the land that I picked, they couldn't put the design of the house that I wanted, that I choose for my family. So the builder offered me for $60,000 less the same type of house on the north side of Williams Parkway, but that area is full with attached houses, semi-attached houses. So I refused. I had to pay $60,000 more just to be on this side of the town, this side of the neighborhood. We're totally disagreeing with this. If they're going to bring in single houses, we have no issues with that. It is like a heritage area. There's all beautiful big houses, big trees. I seen live animals there. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Hi, Madam Chair. My name is Pranav Dave. I am a resident in the same neighborhood at 13 Lampan Crescent. We moved there about 5 years back, and we moved from Mississauga. This is one of the nicest neighborhoods I've seen in Brampton, and that's why we moved in Brampton in this area. The person just mentioned about before a few minutes, we were offered a much higher discount on the upper side of Williams Parkway, but we chose to be in this particular neighborhood because it was a nice neighborhood. It was the estate of Credit Ridge, and again, the nice neighborhood to be there. Also, the area is getting extremely congested. The schools, my son is also in Portable, and one of my neighbors' daughter was in Portable. She slipped a couple of times while going to the washroom because you have to go get the jackets out, go into the school premises to go to the washroom. I'm not sure by adding this many more houses on a smaller properties is going to just make it worse. We are not opposing the construction. It has to be a balanced approach we need to take. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Good evening, Madam Chair, regional councilors, and general public. I have a concern to make. Actually, the reason why I'm here today is for the same reason as everybody else. We moved not 2 minutes away. Actually, we used to live in a townhouse development with some semis and townhouse. That was the area. And my daughter was about 6 months old when we came outside and our windows were smashed. Both our windshield for the cars were smashed. And for this reason, for the safety, actually, we moved out of the neighborhood and looked at this neighborhood where it was promised that, you know, this is going to be a nice development with only single dwellings with a certain look and a certain area that, you know, we can have safe, have our kids play outside. We have young kids, 2 young kids. And this is the reason why we actually paid I think a bit more than we could have to choose this neighborhood and have some safety for our kids. To know now the plan is being amended to allow for a higher density population pretty much in front of where we're going to be living is a little bit of a concern for us. For one, like everybody else said, kids playing outside, the schools, the amount of traffic on Laurenville right now is, one is the traffic, the other is the actual speed. Because we actually live in the neighborhood, we're conscious of how fast we want to drive with our kids playing in the neighborhood. We want to contain that and heighten that awareness that we don't want a lot of traffic, a lot of speeding cars. There's already drag racing almost on Creditview Road that we're hearing. We can hear it outside. It's not a safe. It's not turning into a safe neighborhood anymore. So we want to kind of heighten that awareness and raise our concern regarding that. And you know, that's basically what we're bringing here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi there, if you could state your name, please.
My name is Flavio Longo, and I'm a resident of Makina Street. I, too, moved into this neighborhood in the beginning of the initial build under the understanding that it was to be a semi-detached, detached-only dwellings. Since being there for the past 5-6 years, I've been quite impressed with the development of the area, how well it has come according to the planned expectations, what was presented to us, and what was made available. Now, hearing this change and amendment to add semi-detached in the area, I find is a total lack of disrespect from the builder and from the developer, as I feel they have not taken into consideration the full aesthetics of the neighborhood, how the neighborhood has developed, the type of homes in the area, the architecture, the landscape that has been brought forth. I was shocked to see now, today, here, tonight, that there's also a proposal to continue this type of dwelling further along. And I feel if this is allowed now, it would just set a precedent for future semis to be developed along the properties there, further adding to the congestion. I've noticed there's been an increased amount of traffic, as this gentleman just stated. Yes, there have been drag races along Credit View. Credit View is, I was told, a heritage road that would not be expanded nor to Williams Parkway nor further developed. Now, with this proposal, also I have seen that not only are they asking to, they're asking to actually increase the density over and above what is originally allowed, which this I find is not acceptable to the community either. I would like to know if when these reports and studies were made by the development, if any members of our community was asked our input on this. I know they use studies and land issues and environmental issues, but they actually ask the people in the community how they feel, what it's really like, not just models and calculations and estimates of what it's to be. Because I can tell you with the current amount of density there, this will become a large problem in this community.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Saman Kumaravadu. I'm also, a resident of Lost Canyon Way, and I have a few concerns actually. I think most of the concerns are already raised by my, neighbors here. And so the one thing that I want to raise is I think so when this project was initially started, especially this area, so maybe 2006 or, maybe around 5, I could find some documents, there are a lot of studies which have been already done. So according to these documents, I found that this particular project initially was built based on the 4 pillars of the strategic plan of the Brampton City Council. And then, of course, it's clearly stated that this particular area has been already designated is low density, number 1 and residential. And then, according to another document that I found in your website, and it says that if it is low density 1, is detached, so it will be 8 houses. It is 19.5 units per hectare. But according to the proposed plan, it's become 13.4. Is that? Sorry? 33. Yeah, 33. Sorry. So that will increase up at least about 68% increase in the existing the plan. 68% increase. So that is a significant increase. Whereas I'm sure that when they decided that it should be a low density number 1, and then there must be a lot of the research which they have already done. So based on most probably they have decided this should be the low density 1. But now there will be 68% increase in the density. So that definitely that will be a significant impact. I don't know whether they have the proposal have come up with other the studies which have already conducted like they did in 2006 or 2005. I have no idea. So I hope that we'll be able to get access to those documents. Then we can see whether there is any discrepancies, so then we'll be able to communicate with them. So therefore, I think this is a significant increase. We have to keep it in mind, 68% increase in the density. So then definitely there'll be a significant impact in the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello and welcome.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Blaise Oliaki. I live in 23 Lewisburg. I just want to touch up on what so many of us, residents have said. We moved into this area. What was attractive then was the low density, and so many of us have paid high premium from $20,000, $40,000. My question is, if this proposal is going to move forward, will the builder or the city be ready to pay back the premium that we have paid to live in that area? If we go from a low density to high density, we paid money for it. If you're ready to pay back the $20,000, $40,000 each one of us have invested, yes, we can go ahead.
Thank you. Seeing no further speakers this evening, again, just a reminder that you can send in comments, contact the clerk's office, make any submission, contact staff for information and updates on the file as it progresses. Would someone like to move receipt of the delegations? Councillor Gibson, all those in favour? That's carried. And also, I just want to remind you that there's a number of circulating agencies on all applications to the city. A number of delegates this evening spoke to the capacity of the neighbouring schools, and the school boards will have an opportunity to make their submissions as part of this application as well. Okay? So you're welcome to stay. I don't know why you would. But I'll give you a few minutes if you'd like to clear the chambers. We don't have a lot left on the agenda this evening. So from 19 to 33 is not a 68% increase. It's a 33, maybe. So it's, what is it, 14 houses, so it's not even. No. No, it's.
So who's the builder?
Excuse me, folks. Can I ask you to clear the council chambers so that we can complete the meeting this evening? If you need to sign, register, I'm sure we can have the clerk's representative step out in the hall. Okay? Okay. Councillor Dillon, yeah, right. Okay, members of committee, we're going to move forward with the agenda. Item 7.4, Councillor Dillon asked that it be removed from consent. Councillor Dillon?
Yeah, thank you.
Can I turn you on? Don't know. Do I tap you? Did I? Okay, do it. I'll tap you again. Does that turn you on?
Yes.
Okay.
You turned me on. Thank you. Question I have in regards to 7.4 is, did the, should we wait? Are you guys all right? Can you hear me? All right, we'll wait a minute. You sure? You guys ready?
Okay, I think we're ready.
Okay. Talk as loud as I can. The question I have is for, it's still kind of loud.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please ask you to keep your voices down?
I'm going to push them out of here.
They must be residents of yours.
So, the question I have is, did the application, so from what I understand through the incentive program, there was obviously incentives given for development charges. Did the application have any further incentive opportunities beyond the community improvement plan for the central area? Are there any other citywide incentive programs that it was eligible for? Are there any other citywide, or is it strictly for the central area?
Not in terms of direct incentives, but as part of that, the city worked with the applicant for securing future potential road connection through to Hanson Road, and that was done in the interests of them requiring us from us as secondary access point, and us partnering with them to achieve that for this development. So it was a partnership opportunity that we worked with.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
As part of this application, we didn't provide there wasn't any other direct incentives in terms of such as the DC program, but there was work between the city and the applicant with regard to the provision of a road or a future road connection through the East-West Road through to Hanson Road. That was done because there was an ultimate requirement for this development to have an access onto Hanson Road, and we helped facilitate that to help realize this project. So that was a secondary place where we worked with them to achieve that.
So in terms of incentives, is the applicant was eligible because it falls in the central area, right?
Through the chair, correct. It's eligible because it's within the boundary of the central area community improvement plan, and then more specifically within the boundary of the development charge incentive program, which has its own sub program area within the overall.
In the development charge incentive program falls within the central area, is that correct?
Yes,
that's all the questions I have.
Sorry if I might, through the chair, indulge. Another non-financial incentive that was offered was the use of our economic development expediter. That's a service that is available across the city to all major applications that are significant in terms of job creation or wealth generation for the city. And that's really, I'll call it a concierge service, which allows the applicant to have the luxury of a kind of an elevated level of support and somebody who can help navigate through the system. So that is a service that's available, although somewhat limited at this point, through across the entire city.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Medeiros.
Just through the chair, I just, and I know we don't have economic development, just as a narrative, I'm very supportive of this report, and I just want to commend staff for the excellent work that they did. Just because when we're trying to build that life science sector, its proximity to the hospital, this was, they're one of the first ones who are making that major investment, and I just thought staff did a fantastic job trying to work with them, and hopefully this will lead to attract other future type of investments. So thank you to staff.
Would you like to move the report? Sure. All those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Dillon, you also asked that 7.5 be withdrawn from consent.
Yes. Just wanted some clarification on 7.5. 9 George Street North is the, I was looking on Google Maps, that's the tall apartment building, I believe?
Condo.
The condo building. And so, it received $20,000 under the Building Improvement Program under the Central Area Community Improvement Plan, which supports the revitalization of Brampton's historic downtown. The $20,000 that it received, is this the facade program, part of the facade program? What program exactly is this part of?
Through you, Madam Chair, this is part of the Building Improvement Program, which is a separate program than the Facade Improvement Program.
The next question I have is the eligibility requirements of the program. And there was an approved grant amount of $20. What are the eligibility requirements for the Building Improvement Program?
For clarification, perhaps staff, this already received approval from council. This is an extension of the timeline or the deadline under which the criteria or the conditions to be met, as I understand it. So it's already approved, but there was a delay in the implementation of it.
That is correct, Madam Chair. So the council has approved that this application of the monies for the incentive prior, and there was an expiry by which the application was to really be made and completed. That had not occurred, really due to some communication really matters between the city staff and the applicant. And so the request is made from the applicant for the extension as noted in the report.
So the funding is pending council approval today, though, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, because it's pending due to council approval, I'm just wondering just if I get clarification on what the actual requirements are. I might have missed, I just need a refresher very quickly. Like, what are the requirements for this program? Because we have a facade program, we also have this program.
Through you, Madam Chair, there are a number of requirements through the Building Improvement Program, and mainly the requirements are to improve the building, to provide an incentive for business establishments to establish themselves downtown and attract some commercial and office component to the downtown area.
How old is the building, though?
Sorry.
Sorry to cut you off. How old is the building?
I'm sorry.
How old is the building?
The old building, I don't recall exactly. I think it had occupancy in 2008, if I recall.
So it's like less than 10 years old, but shouldn't this have been a requirement back then, or when they were building it, that they have these facilities in place?
Through you, Madam Chair, the intent of the program, again, is to attract some of these businesses to the downtown area. Yes, this is a relatively new building. However, there are many examples of newer construction downtown that are struggling to get some of the commercials, to get that commercial component and rent or lease those spaces to some commercial establishments. So in our opinion, in staff's opinion, this does meet the eligibility requirements.
So one of the eligibility requirements is that the building, the one that it meets is that it's in downtown or that it's in the office of the central area. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Would it be also eligible for the building improvement program outside of the central area, if there is one? Is there one?
No, there is no building improvement program outside the central area.
Right. Appreciate your responses. I just wanted to get clarification. There seems to be a lot of programs in favor of downtown businesses, and I'm not sure what the measurement we can use to see how successful they are, but there's a whole bunch of businesses throughout the city that are not getting the same funding, which I think they might deserve. So if we could have a recorded vote on this, I don't think I could support the grant.
Councillor Gibson.
Councillor Dillon, I wish you were with me when I voted against this in the first place, because I was the only one who did. I don't, do we have a choice here in this? I mean, I understand there is some type of misunderstanding between the applicant here and the city, and that's why we're past the deadline. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, that is
so
correct.
there's kind of fault for both. Is that right? The way I'm reading it.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe that there is some communication that could have been provided from staff on this matter that could have thwarted the need for the expiry having occurred and some extension.
Because I'm just going to repeat what I said when the report first came. This was a less than 10-year-old, I think it's 8-year-old building. And I know when I supported the incentive program, it was for those buildings that needed to be fixed up and repaired, the older buildings, the heritage buildings. It was never, in my opinion, and there's only 4 of us on council at the time when we put it together, that ever intended that would be for new buildings. That was not the intent originally. And my understanding in this one is that this building was built, this space was controlled by the condominium association. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe that is correct.
And then it sold or rented to the applicant? Is it sold?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, I believe it was sold to the applicant.
Yeah. So then the applicant comes in and wants a grant to help on what was essentially a vacant space. Brand new, vacant space, nothing ever in it. That was never the intent of this program. I'm just repeating what I said at the meeting, the reason why I voted against it the first time. So I'm not going to support it, and only because I don't believe this is what it was ever intended to. And I understand there was a mistake made possibly by staff and a mistake made by the applicant, but or a misunderstanding, whatever it was. But I support the incentive programs in downtown because their help is needed for a lot of those older businesses and older, well, not so much businesses, the buildings, but not in a case of a brand new. This is a brand new vacant space, never been used, even though it was 8 years old, never been used, nobody's in it, and then a business comes along and takes advantage of our program, in my opinion. So I can't support it. I'll vote against it.
Okay. I see no other speakers on the board, and a recorded vote has been called on this.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I would ask all those in favor of the recommendations that appear on the screen before you, please stand. I see Councillor Medeiros. Thank you. And all those opposed to the recommendations on the screen? I have Mayor Jeffrey, Councillor Miles, Councillor Fortini, Councillor Bowman, Chair Moore, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Sprovieri, Councillor Palesci, and Councillor Willens, and Councillor Gibson. And the motion fails.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to item 7.6 on the agenda. It is a recommendation from the Commissioner Elliott on an urban design review panel pilot project. And I'm assuming you'd like to speak to this.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And no formal presentations, but I'm actually very pleased to be in front of you with this report today. I think it's a great step forward in our city building initiatives. The review panel is not new. It is new here in the city of Brampton, but it's not a new concept around Ontario and across the country. What this really is an advisory panel made up of experts, and the intention is to get experts who practice generally outside of the city, who can bring their insights and recommendations to supporting our decisions, generally through the site plan process, which is an authority resting with staff right now. So this advisory panel is really to help staff better understand and appreciate the finer elements of the site plan approval process for some of our significant projects here in the city. And I think I know that it will allow us to achieve very, very high standards of urban design. And through the planning vision that we've just finished with our community engagement, we've heard loud and clear that good urban form and our urban spaces are of keen interest to our city. So I think this is the next step in our journey to really strong city building and good urban space development. So I'm quite excited about this. We've recommended a 2-year pilot just to make sure we can refine this. We'll report back at the end of that 2-year period. I do suspect that this will be a strong tool, and as we deal with more urban issues, will be an incredible asset to us in making decisions around the built form here in the city of Brampton.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you to the Chair. It says the proposed scope of the work will include reviewing applications in design priority areas. I'm just wondering if Ward 9 and 10 has any of the design priority areas, which include, well, obviously not the central area, but mobility hubs and urban centers.
Through the Chair, we decided to scope the work because we wouldn't want every application of site plan to have to come through that review panel. That's a lot to ask of professionals who are dedicating their time free of charge. So really what we've done is defined areas where we anticipate and expect significant applications to come forward. Having said that, though, we as staff have the authority to direct any applications that we think would benefit through this process to the review panel.
I think this common theme in my questions in the last 3 items, I kind of feel like there's not enough attention being given to Wards 9 and 10 in the Northeast. So you can include Ward 8 out there, and 7 too, if you want 7, throw 7 in there. I'll take 2 and 6 as well. You could talk around anything other than the central area. I take a look at a conversation with you as well. There's not a lot of business there. Not a lot of opportunity, but there's so much opportunity to get a grant, to get some funding when you're in the central area. And we really haven't focused on, I guess, the suburban areas of Brampton as well. There's a lot of opportunity there. And to me, if we had some type of strategy in place, because we're always talking about that we're near the 400 series highway, we have a young population, we're diverse, but we really haven't tapped into, for example, the diversity. And if there's something that we can broaden our scope, that there's so much opportunity within the outskirts of the city as well, that, when I love this stuff, some of the stuff that I see here, but a lot of the constituents in Ward 9 and 10 are asking, what about us? Why haven't we identified any type of opportunities here? Maybe we've already been developed, but down the road that we can look at. And so really there's no question here. It's just a comment that I really wish we could expand our horizons and look at some of the outer parts of the city as well, because we have a lot of stuff going on there. We have great residents, and there's a lot of opportunities. We just need to identify them, and if we have a strategy in place to at least attempt to identify them, I think it'll satisfy a lot of those people who live out there.
So if I may, through the Chair, and that's the one thing that has been incredible. We've heard through the planning vision and the community engagement that we've been undertaking. We've had comments from, I think, approaching 14,000 people now, and they're not all from the downtown.
So we're going to take all of this feedback and actually influence our planning policies moving forward. Bear in mind, too, though, we've got urban design policies around mature neighborhoods. We've got an architectural control process in place. So we're trying to put in mechanisms that suit the types of developments that are being brought forward.
No, absolutely. And like I said, because I took a quickly look, mobility hubs, urban center, central area, we can't put a check mark beside any of them. So, hopefully going forward we can identify, like I said, some opportunities out there.
Okay. Mayor Jeffrey.
I don't have anything to say except it's a terrific idea. Well done. And the fact that Mississauga has had it for 10 years longer than us speaks volumes. Well done. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Miles.
I think Councillor Sprovieri would tell you that we spent the last probably 20 years dealing with wards 9 and 10 at pretty well every planning committee meeting and every council meeting as ward 9 and 10 grew through the municipality. So, and the kind of feedback that I get from the Bramalea area is how come this older community in the Bramalea area is not getting the kind of attention that you're giving for areas that have like huge community centers like Gore Meadows. So it's being felt throughout the city. All of our residents have concerns and issues. But I think in this particular case, an urban design review is such an amazing idea. So I commend you. I didn't realize Mississauga had a committee as well, but I think as we look at our major, the urban forum along Queen Street, which is going to stretch from one end of the city to the other along Steeles Avenue, and our major north, south, east, west routes, that this kind of an expertise will be really amazing as we go forward and help develop this vision for the municipality. And I think that would stand true for every single ward in the city of Brampton as we look at our major arterial roads and how we grow and how we develop. Because we have all of that, and then we have to keep in mind as well all of the requirements that the province of Ontario are having on us now for growth plans, 40% intensification throughout the city of Brampton. How do we deal with it? What's it going to look like? I mean, tonight was a prime example of what happens when you look at it, intensification in an existing community. We dealt with our policy at the last planning committee meeting about ensuring that we provide all forms of housing, and affordable housing being one, and the fact that it's going to take strength of our convictions in order to allow intensification. I mean, tonight is a good example of the kind of pressure that comes to bear on us as we make these kinds of decisions. So I think it would be great to have a panel of experts. My question is, why would they do it for nothing?
Through the chair. Fantastic question. These are people who are passionate about their profession, and they feel it's their sense of duty to give back to the communities that they have a relationship with.
Okay, so they wouldn't just necessarily have to live here, but they would maybe work here. Is that what you're...
Through the chair, actually, it would be my preference that they did most of their business or conducted their business and lived outside of the city. That way we can ensure impartiality and no conflict of interest. I have no issues with some who work locally, but I think the greatest value is actually having a peer review that has the opportunity to look from the outside in. We can learn from them. We can put aside any conflict of interest and have great conversations. And by way of commentary, some of the feedback I've had from architects who do business in cities with these really appreciate that. They don't look at it like a hurdle. They in fact look at it like an opportunity to get great feedback from their peers to produce a product that we can then consider that's of superior quality without going through a lengthy process. So it's well received actually elsewhere.
So not necessarily, they don't have to necessarily be residents, they don't have to necessarily have a formal connection, it's just you put it out there and you see, is it by formal invitation, you see who's interested?
So Through the chair, that's correct. We haven't quite articulated the exact process by which we like to follow to get people on board. Ottawa, for instance, they went through the associations, the Planning Association, the Architects Association. Others have put a call for interest out. We're going to refine that, but we wanted to make sure that we got endorsement at the pilot level first.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there would be great prestige in someone serving on a panel for the City of Brampton. So let's hope. Thank you.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm glad Councillor Miles brought that up, because that's what we've been hearing from our residents, is why is that area of the city getting everything for the last 10 years and we've been getting nothing? So, Capri, we've been hearing the same thing from our residents for a long time, and you guys have been getting it. I just tell everybody that Councillor Spolvieri does a better job than the rest of us. But, you know, things change, and, you know, eventually I think we all know that the Northwest is going to probably start getting a lot of that stuff in the next few years, and our residents in our older areas will be complaining. But maybe we should dust off one of those reports that we had years ago. Staff did a couple of reports to help council members understand the difficulties that businesses and properties have when they're in the brownfields, and why it's different than the newer areas to run a business and all that kind of stuff. I know we have those reports, and it helped convince some of the council members in their struggles of why you know, we're spending money and incentives in areas and not in other areas. And I know we have those reports, and it might be good to, and we don't have to circulate them here, but maybe send them all council members so they can read them and understand the difficulties that those businesses had. I think we need to invite Dave Capel to come again. And I don't know if all council members have heard him speak about why the incentive program in the downtown is so important. It's a reason why he came to the downtown and built what he did, and his buildings in the downtown are beautiful. The ones that he's taken and redone because of that incentive program. And he told us that if it wasn't for the incentive program, he wouldn't have come and done it. It just didn't make sense economically for him to do it without some type of incentive. And now he's got better tenants in his buildings, and we're getting more taxation out of it. So at the end of the day, it's a benefit for everybody. And thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I want to congratulate you, Rob. I think this is a great initiative. I'm going to suggest or recommend that you work with communications to prepare a media release between now and our council meeting. Oh, I think it's this, no, it's the 13th, right? Because I think this is a good news item for the City of Brampton. I think it would be well received by our residents, particularly those that see some redevelopment taking place in existing neighborhoods. So I think this is something that we need to put the spotlight on once it's approved by council. I think that's just a great way to sort of highlight that we're doing business differently in the planning department of the city. So, someone like to move approval of the report? Councillor Willens. All those in favor? That's carried. Item 8.1 is in consent. 8.2 was added, handed out this evening. They're the Brampton Heritage Board's meeting. Sorry, Heritage Board minutes. Someone like to move those? Councillor Willens again. All those in favor? That's carried. Everything else is in consent. We move down to councillor question period. Councillor Fortini.
Rob, I know we did 241 there, Queen Street. You said that they get special treatments because of the jobs. So how many jobs do they have to create to get that special treatment? We had a great project today.
Through the chair, we haven't articulated a specific number that we would apply that individual to or not. I think anything that's of significant importance and can be managed within the workload of the expediter is what would end up on their work plate. But certainly this is a significant number of jobs and warranted that extra level of detail.
Well, I agree, and I always said, you need one of these star office that gets there and gets done quick. That's good. Going back to urban design, I get a lot of criticism on that street on the house I built. I just blame Councillor Miles. It was approved before I got elected because I live right there. But we got to stop projects like that. Like right in a certain area, you walk in and you got this big mansion and all little bungalows and it covers everybody's backyard. And I'm getting a lot of bad publicity.
It's those
And
mansard roofs.
And I live there too, and I get no more sun in my pool because of the house.
I see no more questions from councillors. Anybody here from the public who wishes to ask a question this evening? The lone member of the public up there? No, you're good? Okay, we'll move now to those three words we like to hear most. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Miles, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.